Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today I'm here with Crystal O'Connor. Welcome, Crystal.
Hello, thank you.
So, with a degree in education, Crystal worked with small business owners in the television advertising world. Crystal decided to walk out of a corporate job and start her own marketing business online. At the time, she had 3 kids under the age of 6 and was newly divorced. Even though she always broke every sales record at the office, they would conveniently change the commission structure, causing her to have to work harder for less. I know how that goes. So she would never break past 6 figures, yet felt like she was putting her job before her kids. When she noticed videos online were free, and yet she'd watch small business owners struggle to pay thousands of dollars a month for 30-second ads on television, she knew something was about to change, and for the better. She decided to teach small business owners how to market using online strategies and everything else she knew about marketing and advertising. She broke past that 6 figures in a matter of months and never went back. She started Moxie Entrepreneur, a coaching business, and Moxie Media Solutions, a marketing agency. She's the author of Unleash Your Moxie, endorsed by Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank, and she has most recently started a program called Rich, Fit, and Happy, focused on helping business owners in the health and wellness space, as well as in personal finance, so that they can thrive in these 3 key areas: health, wealth, and all while achieving happiness. That's amazing. So really excited to talk to you, because I think marketing is one of the things that small businesses struggle with most. We just don't know what works and what doesn't work, right?
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add to that by saying that it became even more complicated with online. Yeah. And it was the Wild West when I started. So it was then 2008, between 2007 and 2008, when I noticed what was going online and decided to, take the reins and say, I'm doing this because it's going to free up time. And now is, a really great opportunity. It was a little easier. It wasn't easier in that there wasn't learning. There was definitely a learning curve, but it was easier in that it was like I said, the Wild West, and you weren't, Facebook wasn't being nearly as restrictive with the amount of eyeballs, right? Seeing something. I in fact started with putting an opt-in page on my Facebook profile to build a database. That is not, something that can be done now. I had to teach myself how to do that, which I taught myself on YouTube. So it's different now. But here's the thing, business always changes, the environment always changes, and things are kind of cyclical. And what used to work doesn't work now, but then it almost always comes back around. So, it's been interesting. It's an interesting ride, and you have to kind of be willing to change and grow.
And then with AI coming into the mix, I mean, things are changing again, right? Like even now that, AI and, Chat GPT and all these things are kind of coming into play, we are dealing with a whole new set of rules, right?
Yeah. Yes. I think with Chat GPT being part of the AI world, it's made it easier, but not 100% easier, meaning you still have to add your creativity, because I've played around with it and it's pretty generic information that it's spitting out, but it is interesting, and it can get your project going faster, and it can get your creativity going faster. So I use it for headlines. but I almost always have to tweak them. For instance, I'll use it to spit me out some ideas for a podcast title, because I have a podcast as well. And, a catchy, because these are some of these things I actually used to teach in my initial program. I used to teach copywriting and headlines, headline hacks. And now, so it saves you time. It saves, have you been using it in that regard? It does save.
I've used it a little bit, but I've heard, and I could be wrong about this, but I've heard that that Google and some of the search engines have started to kind of restrict things from chat. If they can recognize that it seems to be AI generated, they'll actually throw it down lower in a search result. Is that right?
I have been hearing things. I don't know what is being, I don't know what's completely accurate and what's not with that. I know that in the education world, like in colleges and universities, now the teachers are having to have different ways to kind of, catch them. Right. And it's being shut down. And I think they're getting to the point where, they'll actually expel a student. That's pretty major. That
is major. So you want to avoid things like that.
It wouldn't surprise me if Google will do that, but here's the thing: it can still be used to spark your own creativity. You're going to get lazy and just keep swiping all of it. First of all, it's going to be super generic anyway, and that's not competitive. We're living in a very competitive online world now. I called when I started, I called it the Wild West. Well, there were a lot of eyeballs, and there weren't a lot of people doing it, so it was easy to stand out, and you didn't really have to be that skillful. Now you've got to be real skillful, and ChatGPT will spit out some really boring generic stuff, but it can be useful, like I said, in teaching you some things. But to copy and paste it all, probably, like you said, probably is not going to help. Because if Google is going to crack down on that, it's going to hurt you. So I say use it to teach you. So if you're going to use it to teach you what a captivating title is, because that is really good copywriting. It's been used for years and years. And as old as, when the first newspapers came out, the headlines were what grabbed attention. So if you're looking to use an attention grabbing headline, use ChatGPT to teach you how to do this. And instead of just copying and pasting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what got you interested in the marketing world?
I was in TV advertising. So the reason I left, I went to college to be a teacher. And the reason I left was because I had 3 kids in 2 years. And it didn't seem smart to leave my kids to go teach other kids, only to give my almost entire salary to a daycare. So I stayed home until they were old enough to go to school. And then, so I started working for a TV station. And I was in sales, so I'd work with the small business owners, but I would also do a lot of writing for them. So I'd write commercials, and sometimes I was in the commercials. I do voiceover. So I did a lot of different little things that really taught me a lot about advertising, and it was fun. And before that, I had been in sales as well. And I worked for Chanel Cosmetics. I had worked in many different facets of sales. I feel like that helped me a lot. And so then the TV advertising and having words be part of your understanding of how marketing works and how the psychology of the brain works and what grabs attention, all of those things kind of rolled into one helped. But one thing I feel like put me, in terms of skills, put me to an advantage or at an advantage is knowing that you have to ask for the sale. So when I started, just like I had mentioned, putting the opt-in on Facebook, on my Facebook profile, the objective was to start asking for, so I put a little headline on there. I can't remember what it was, but it probably was to attract people to my weekly call, which again, it was before podcasts. Podcasts is another example of that. So I would ask people to join me on a call. I'd get use a phone number. Can't even remember what it was now, but you could get a phone number. People would sign up. They called it a bridge line. They would call this number, put in this code, and they would listen to me like every Tuesday. So Tuesday evenings, I would talk for about 30 minutes or more about money, how to make more money, and how to apply. So I was actually learning and then teaching, learning and teaching.
Okay.
And then I was just really consistent with that, built that list. And then I knew at some point I was going to have to ask or make an offer. So making an offer was something that I knew I had to do. It was just a matter of asking the people that were listening what they wanted from me. So I offered a $6,000 program, and I knew that it needed to replace my income. I needed to not just have a higher ticket offer, but really have it be super valuable, or they weren't going to pay $6,000. So I knew that me offering $6,000 had to be at least $25,000 or more in terms of value. And so that's what I did. I basically created a program, charged $6,000. I would put up their website, their WordPress. I teach them how to use it. We would meet once a week, one-on-one. At the time, we used Skype. And I don't know why I'm laughing about that. I don't even know if it's still around.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. So I would use Skype, and I would do some of the writing I would teach them. I would send them recordings. I would have a weekly call, and then I'd meet with them one-on-one. So it was all about these 5 pages. I made it all about these 5 pages on their website, their sales page, their offer, what they were going to charge, and then getting people into or building a list, and then getting people to a strategy session. So I really teach them how to build a list as fast as possible of at least 300 or more.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I had a strategy also that I would teach. Not everybody would do it because there are a lot of steps, but I basically gave them for the $6,000, and I worked with them for 6 months doing this. I taught them how to write the emails that would go out, the weekly newsletter, how to hire a virtual assistant. Once they got the sales coming in, I would help them get their virtual assistant in order, and how to delegate certain tasks. And basically I would teach them how to get their business going and running.
Okay. Interesting.
So there's really high value. So that's how I started.
Okay. I love it. Well, and I love that you're not just doing it for them, you're teaching them. And so really they can walk away with something besides just a product, right? So just instead of an item that they can say, okay, now I have this, what do I do with it? Like you're actually educating, which is amazing. So you teach people how to do, how to generate these lists. How valuable were the lists? Like what are your suggestions when somebody's trying to build a list of potential clients?
So, okay, ask that again.
What is your recommendation when somebody's trying to build a list of potential clients and who they want to reach out to? How do you suggest going about building a list like that?
Oh, okay. Well, one of the strategies was a telesummit. So it's kind of, I would suggest getting your opt-in page in various areas. At the time, my first one was actually on my Facebook page. I also used leadpages.net. And then I had one at the very top of my header on my WordPress site. I found somebody that I still use her every once in a while for certain projects, but she was fantastic to find. She was a referral. And she put up my second WordPress website. She was phenomenal at it. She was the one that put up sites for all of my other clients. And one of the things that we always did was have them, or had an opt-in at the very header of the site, and then another area as well. But then you could use that and always send people to a page where you're going to capture their leads. So I would suggest that. Now, to build a list fast would be to use other people's lists by getting to know them. So one of the things that I would suggest and have them do is to create a page with a plan, and the page would have on it people that you would like to have on a telesummit, say 30 people, which meant you had to do some Googling, and I would have them choose people that were in their industry, but not a direct competitor.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Like an
Then,
alignment.
yes. And then
Mhm.
I would actually have templates and things like that and help them with the name of the telesummit. And they were going to interview these people in exchange for sharing the list. So everybody that was involved, they were doing it by choice and they were sharing each other's lists. So the person that was interviewed had to do certain things. So there's criteria. They needed to send an email. When I say share lists, I don't mean, I never had anybody like send a list to somebody else. That it was kind of against a lot of different policies with
Sure.
autoresponder email services. But what I would have, or what they were required to do is have a list of at least 300 or more. Back then, I think I moved it up to about 500. So if someone had that was in your industry but not a direct competitor, I would have them send an invite, and the requirements were to have at least 300 to 500, and then send 3 emails out over a span of 3 weeks, inviting them to be on this list. So send them to your, basically opting into your list.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Anyone from their list that opted in on your opt-in page became part of your new list. So if you take 300 to 500 people times 30, that gives you an idea of a great list that you can walk away with. And so if you had the determination, I did this, and this is how I started with my first list.
Okay.
And so it took me about 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
I sent an invitation out, and almost everybody that I sent the invitation out to said yes.
Awesome.
That surprised me. Now
Yeah.
it would be a little trickier now, but this is a method that works,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I taught.
Okay.
There's a little bit more to it than that, but
Yeah, sure.
that's the nuts and bolts of it.
So what is a telesummit? Is this just something where everybody gets on at one time to
Well,
educate?
I don't know
Okay.
if telesummit is the word used now, because right? I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
would be like a video summit is probably
Right,
what
right.
they're calling it now. I haven't done one for a while, but I've been on other video summits where it involves, a couple of weeks or maybe even just a week of you sign up and you listen to all these interviews. One was, for instance, done by a gal that's been in the fitness industry for many, many years. And I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that she interviewed a lot, probably 30 to 50 experts in the area of midlife.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so good example, this was a good example, but a good example of some of the people on her list were people. So she's a fitness professional.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think about it, she's obviously, what she teaches is women in their
Mm-hmm.
30s, 40s, 50s. They're reaching midlife.
Mm-hmm.
And she interviewed people that have remedies or worked in some specialty. They weren't necessarily fitness experts like she was,
Mm-hmm.
but they still, like, there was a chiropractor, there was a hormone specialist, there was a sex coach.
Wow.
Just like to see what I mean when I say they're in that same industry, but not actual direct competitors. So they make really good joint venture partners.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a strategy that I would suggest anybody use to get started. It's a really smart way. It can get you started faster. And
Mm-hmm.
in those 30 people that you're interacting with, you'll walk away with a couple, maybe even more than a couple of people that you can do joint ventures with moving forward in the future.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I love that idea. And when you're looking at complementary services, there's so many. Like we have a very specific niche in my world. So I own a security company, but we do very particular type of security. So we actually align with people who probably other people think that we're competitors, but because we stay in our lane and we know what we do well, I'm happy to refer to them. They're happy to refer to me.
Yeah.
And it helps all of us
Yes.
because we know the client's getting the best service from the company that aligns best with what they need.
Yeah. And there's nothing better than a referral. When I say that, I mean, it's someone that you trust, you've gotten to know, and they tend to buy a lot faster because of that. I think it's a psychology thing. So I'm going to buy something almost immediately. If I need something, I ask my friend, she's used it, it's a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a really good you just feel comfortable. Whereas if you fall upon it online, there's a part of you that just they're not understanding, or you're not understanding yet. But that know, like, and trust just isn't quite there yet, like it is in a referral.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you went from being working in the corporate world to being an entrepreneur. So tell me what that leap was like and what skills you've acquired as an entrepreneur that you didn't have as an employee that have helped you.
The skills that so I brought skills over, and like I said, I feel like that sales, asking for the sale, I knew that it was something that I needed to do every day. Whereas when I would work with people that had not been in sales, it was something that they had to get comfortable with, and I had to really coax them into it. Like, you've got to have a way that you're asking for the sale or offering something every day, and it doesn't have to be hard sale. It doesn't have to be that. And so that is where the whole marketing and education-based marketing would come from. And then I've lost my train of thought with regard to what you asked. I think what you asked was, how was the transition?
Yeah, how was the transition?
It wasn't as bumpy as it could have been if I had just cold turkey stopped and didn't know sales.
Right.
Okay. I wouldn't recommend somebody do that and not have a way. So I always suggest to people, do you have a list of qualified leads or warm leads? If you don't, have 6 months of your 6 months living expenses set aside.
Yeah.
Or maybe even more, but I would say 6 months. It depends on what kind of money manager you are. We're all a little bit different with our money.
Yeah, or it depends on what your receivables timeline looks like, right? So like with me, we don't charge for staff until the staff is present on site, right? And so if we're booking something, we could have booked a huge event, but if it doesn't take place for another 12 months, we're not going to see any money on that. So yeah, you have to fill up your pipeline with things that are short-term, long-term, and when you're getting your receivables.
Yeah. So one of the things, a good example, when I started with my $6,000, offering a payment plan was something that almost everybody wanted, but the first payment that I would ask would be more than just $1,000. Remember, I said it's $6,000 and then it was 6 months. I would ask for 2 months up front. And that really helped. I knew that we were going to get enough done, but I also wanted to look out for myself and make sure that I was not putting a lot of effort in and being left without. So then I knew with that how many. So if I was going to make 2,000 initially on one customer, I knew then how many I needed that first month and each month thereafter in my pipeline.
Yeah.
And then how many offers I needed to be making automatically on my list, and then how many connections I needed to be making with my joint venture partners. And then possibly, like, another way that can also work really well is to have a joint venture opportunity with somebody and you're actually selling. So I've got one going on right now as an example, where I am joint venturing with a gal and we're going to be holding a webinar. And webinar, so we're going to split the profits and teach a 6, maybe even 8-week class to health coaches, for instance.
Oh, that's a great idea. I like that. So you then pivoted and you wrote a book. So tell me about the book, because that's a big undertaking, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't as much as I thought. So yes and no. What I walked away from with that little project is that you really just need to start writing. Quit thinking that it needs to be perfect, because like I said yesterday in a podcast episode, I said I'm not grammatically correct most of the time. And that's okay. And I think it's important for people to know that I was not like a star writer in terms of grammar. Okay. But I like to write. And so I had a guy tell me, you just need to start writing. You just move your fingers. And that's how the creativity actually starts. I also walked away. I think my biggest lesson was that, if I can just get a bunch of words to an editor, he can help guide me. He or she can help guide me after that. Obviously, you need some good content, okay?
Right.
Which I had some good ideas. So he or she, I keep saying he because mine happened to be a male, but they can't work their magic unless you have something good. However, it is pretty amazing what an editor can do to weave some continuity and consistency with your themes. So how he broke it up was not how broke it up into 3 segments. I wouldn't have even thought of that. So editors are pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Can help you get things going fast.
Yeah, I like that.
And guide you in ways that you wouldn't have ever thought.
Well, and I'm sure with your coaching business, it's helped tremendously, right? Being a published author, having your own book, people can read the book, and then if they want more, they come to you and they're like, okay, you're the one who literally wrote the book that I am already impressed with. You've given me so much great content. And then they come back to you for more.
Yeah, they look at you differently. I never wrote a book to make money. It was to, make profits off of the book. But I used it as like a business card.
Yeah, so I like it.
Yeah.
I like that. So where did you come up with the name Moxie? That's a really cool name.
I think that it was an older gentleman that called me Moxie when I was in sales.
Really?
And I didn't even know what it meant. It's an old word, and I like to think that I brought it back. And now it's like really popular. But yeah, I actually, my first business was Moxie Mompreneur. I changed it to Moxie Entrepreneur because someone's literally stole the name Moxie Mompreneur in my, that's a long story. Right. I've had some seriously funny things like that happen. Moxie Talk was also stolen from me. Like they literally took it out and redirected it and then sold it. Yeah. Wow. Someone that hacked into my my hosting account. And it's fine. It's not, here's the thing. Here's what I want to tell people. Don't get hung up on the name. It's not that big of a deal. I think when I see somebody getting hung up on a domain name or a name, I know that they're just starting out, and it's really the quality of your work and the value and the service that you provide is what sticks and what people remember. Yes, branding is important, but it'll only take you so far. So when I had somebody say, "Oh, you want it back? I'm gonna, you need to give me this." I was like, "Oh, okay." Then I changed it to Moxie Entrepreneur. I was like, "Bye, good luck with Moxie Mompreneur." And at that moment, it was kind of like I was being stubborn, but at the same time, it's like, I didn't think mompreneur was actually, it sounded very serious anyway. Like I liked the alliteration of it. It was kind of cute. Right. But I thought entrepreneur actually was going to be taken more seriously. So I was like, fine, we'll just switch it right now, and switch the whole, or I switched the name, changed the whole website. It was New Year's Eve. I'll never forget. It was New Year's Eve. It was New Year's Eve, and I was at home doing that, and my kids were with their dad, and I was like, I'm just going to do this now. And I was like, excited. I was like, new year, new name.
All right. I like it. I like it. Well, so then you launch your book, you've got Moxie Entrepreneur, and you're kind of jamming along. So then what next? What led to you?
Okay, so here's the funny thing about entrepreneur and the word entrepreneur. So I used that name for years, and now I'm switched. My new project is Rich, Fit, and Happy. So Moxie Entrepreneur is still up there and out there, but I'm not using that name anymore because Entrepreneur Magazine is suing people that are using the word entrepreneur.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know, right? Like that's really helpful. Thanks. I probably won't read your magazine anymore. So that's kind of why I'm not really using it anymore. I'm probably going to take it down, but it's up there because I still talk about it every once in a while. I do have Moxie Media Solutions, so it's like a done for you. But Rich, Fit, and Happy is my newest project. And then I'm partnering with another gal that does hormones and has a research foundation working with doctors. So I want to teach health coaches how to expand their business and specialize in hormones the right way. So that probably threw you for a loop, and I didn't mean to do that. But Rich, Fit, and Happy is the name of my podcast and the name of my business. And there's only one page right now up, but it is going to be an all-in-one, meaning I'm going to teach business and how to manage business and health and fitness. Because here's the thing. I noticed when I was going through, and I don't know how old you are, hon, you look pretty young, but while I was going through my 40s and building my business, it was a lot, and kids. And I thought it was just stress, but it wasn't. It was that I was going through perimenopause and I didn't understand. And I think it's being talked about more and more. And all of these health spas are going up and offering hormone patches and testosterone. Yeah. Here's the thing. I feel like it's a little out of control. So I've been working with a gal that knows hormones so well that she's really expanded my knowledge. And I'm talking about it more because it's one of the pillars. Health, you've got to make sure you're watching your health, taking care of yourself. If you are going to have the energy, which is Moxie, have the energy to build your business and look great and feel great. If you don't look great and feel great, you're not going to have the confidence and put yourself out there. And by the way, did you know that one of the best ways to boost your confidence is to check on your estrogen levels? One of the things that I do know and have learned is that estrogen is talked about like it's a bad thing, but it is not. Right. So most of us are walking around with low estrogen, thinking we're estrogen dominant, or thinking, there's so many experts. Well, they're calling themselves experts and they're throwing around a lot of information. And even though it's great to be aware, being confused is also not a state to be in. So I'm going to have an expert speaking, like a true expert speaking about it in Rich, Fit, and Happy. So we're going to, make sure that your health is being or that you know what to look for in an expert, and get your estrogen where it needs to be, all your hormones in check, your health in check, so that you can lose weight easier and faster and do the right things in your business. Because what I noticed in Moxie Entrepreneur is that I would give people what I felt like were the keys to the kingdom. Like, do these things and you could make 6 figures real quick, and then you can double it the next year. And they wouldn't do it. And I didn't understand why. And some of it is confidence, right? And skilling up. But when you have your family that you're dealing with, and you have your business and your confidence, and then you're not feeling well and you don't know why, it could very well be because of your hormones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not having them in check. So I wanted like those 3 pillars: how to make more money and manage it, and then the fitness part, and then the happy part is the mindset. Yeah. Which also, estrogen also makes you happy. Did you know that? That's not talked about enough. It's linked to the low estrogen is linked to depression, like big time. And you feel that if we walk around feeling depressed and we go to a doctor, what do they tell you? Oh, here's an antidepressant. It doesn't address the main issue.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm in my 40s, and I've noticed a definite change in, just my energy levels, and, it's the weight gain. It's everything. It's, my mood at the end of the day is different. Yes. And so, I agree. Hormones, as they're changing. And I think this has to do with kids too. When kids start going through hormonal changes as teenagers, it changes who they are and how they interact with the world. And so why wouldn't it change the opposite?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I was, for instance, good example is heart palpitations. And you tell that to a doctor and they act like you have a heart problem. No, it's either magnesium or also low estrogen or too much estrogen. It's like getting that all in check, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you got a heart problem. And that is something that is kind of ridiculous, ridiculous in that, like, we don't need more stress of worrying about something that is kind of an easy fix. If we just had the right doctor or the right expert that knew how to handle it. And it's pretty sad that in this country, we don't have enough of those that know how to handle it. And writing scripts just like Band-Aids covering up a bullet wound. That's what I feel like that they're doing, is sad. There are doctors that know about it, they're just few and far in between.
Yeah. I'm pretty,
and so
yeah, I'm pretty anti-medication when it comes to things like, patching a problem. I don't want to treat a symptom. I want to treat the cause, right? Like, get me to the root of the problem and let's talk about that. I don't really want your Band-Aid solutions to something.
And you know what? The saddest thing about, and I am a conscious capitalist, okay,
yeah,
saying
me too.
this, but yeah, if you're an entrepreneur, you probably are, absolutely. And there's a lot of power in that. But it seems to be that there's a lot of managing of symptoms, too much money being made of managing symptoms, okay, instead of just fixing the problem. And it seems to be, with my research and looking into this more and more, that there's like a lot of proof that if you fix the estrogen problem, you'll fix almost all kinds of problems the body has: osteoporosis, heart condition, breast cancer. And now I might be even making you feel uncomfortable by saying that. I'm just saying there are books. A good one is Estrogen Matters. Listen to that book, read the book or listen to it, and you'll hear what I'm saying from an expert's point of view.
Well, and I am fascinated by that because it's so much relevance, and with the stress levels that we're dealing with, as in our 40s, with kids who are teenagers now and they're getting a little bit older, and you're worrying about college and you're worried about school, but you're also running a business,
and you can't even sleep, and you're being told, oh, too much stress. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're going to feel like you have too much stress if you have an estrogen level of 100 or less. And you know that, and that is another argument. People will say, oh, your estrogen is fine at 100. Really? Because you'll feel your best between 350 and 550. And that comes from an expert that's worked with thousands of women. But yet there are those that won't suggest you get your estrogen up that high because it's linked to breast cancer. And it absolutely is not. Read the book, Estrogen Matters. There's a lot of research and doctors are in there saying it. It's just that very few doctors, not enough doctors are saying it. So that's my soapbox, because I want women to feel as best as they can so that they can do all the things that they need to do.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Not die early, because ignoring those things, covering it up with an antidepressant only leads to disease early, dementia. All of those are linked to low estrogen. So there's my soapbox.
Okay. Well, and honestly, like, we're so busy that I think that we tend to just throw our health up on a shelf somewhere and think, oh, we'll deal with it when we have time. But really, like, if you can deal with it early, it'll give you the energy, the stamina, all the things that you need to really just start tackling everything else in your life. And
and
you can't put your health on the back burner.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having a glass of wine, but when you find yourself needing a glass of wine every single day and you don't know how to stop that, it could be very well, because rightfully so, you're needing it because you're lacking what your body needs. And you can throw minerals at it. And, I hear a lot about gut biome. Okay. And your gut yes. But did you know that estrogen helps the gut biome? You're going to have a really hard time getting your gut biome accurate when you don't have the estrogen helping you do that. And then what do? You reach for the alcohol, to kind of calm yourself down and try to get the sleep. And then the cycle continues. Get your estrogen fixed. Get your labs done.
Yeah, I agree. So going back to your book, so you talk about nuns in your book and how you had nuns in your family. So tell me what that was like.
I did. They made an impression on me. So the funniest thing about this is that as a kid, I couldn't stand them. It wasn't them. It wasn't them. It was just their disciplined style. And by the way, none of them ever laid a hand on me. That's not what I mean. And that's not what I mean. I just meant the repetition. So the repetition and their style of repetition and habit and cleanliness is next to godliness. That whole thing drove me crazy.
Right.
And I didn't see a point in it until I became an entrepreneur. So that's my point in mentioning it as in my book. I mentioned it because I would catch myself teaching what the nuns would teach me. Yes, it's boring. Yeah, and if you think about it, Mr. Miyagi? He would teach me to say,
yeah, wax on, wax off, right? Why do I have to keep
doing this over and over? And so what you're doing by being consistent is you're creating a neural pathway in your brain to do that thing consistently, and that consistency and doing the right things. You don't just consistent with everything, but if you're consistent with the right things in your business, it actually starts working and flowing and growing. But if you're not even being consistent with those simple foundational pieces, it's not going to work, and you're going to think it's you. It's not you. It's just that you need certain things done in a certain way and consistently.
Yeah. Well, I like that because that actually makes a lot of sense. And when we start getting distracted with the what I call getting in the weeds in your business, oh, I'm too busy to handle invoices. I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do sales. I'm too busy to do marketing. Well, then you're working on all the tasks in your business and you're not running your business, right? So I always say,
and it makes you not feel like you have room. I've heard it called holding space. I don't know why I don't like that term, but you feel like you don't have room to have a conversation with someone, or like a podcast. Like sometimes I don't have room. I don't have the capacity.
Right.
But yet that you should. And so that's why I say like the 3 pillars. So check your labs, make sure that you're giving your body everything you need, and then start to realize, okay, I do have time. I do have the patience and the capacity, because when you're stressed out, low estrogen, low hormones, you don't want to connect with people. You don't even like people at that point.
Yeah, it's true.
You're like, oh my God, another person that needs something from me. And then my kids, my husband. It's like you don't feel like that you have enough to give anymore. And again, it could be hormones.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. So when you're working on the health and wellness and happiness and health and wealth, so where does all of this tie in together as an entrepreneur? Because and I swear to you, this is one thing that we will very quickly put ourselves, my happiness will come after, health will come after, wealth will come after, right? Like entrepreneurs, we get so task oriented that those are the things that we take out as the pillars, right? Like that's the first thing we remove from our lives. So why do you think they're so important, and how can we make them an integral part of, we can become more successful if we just focus on these 3 things?
Ask me that. What was the beginning of that?
So what I'm trying to ask is, as an entrepreneur, when we take these 3 things out, wealth, we'll figure out. I'm dealing with wealth, like an example, we'll cash out our pension or IRAs, whatever it is, to start our business. And we say our business is our retirement plan, right? And so we're in the grind and we don't have a lot of money right now. And, we just think it'll come later. Health. Oh, I'll go to the doctor later. I don't have enough time for that right now. I'll do a checkup later. I'll do my labs later. All of this is later. Happiness, oh, my family can wait. My family will be there when I just have to get through this one tough time. And, so as entrepreneurs, we're constantly putting those 3 things on the back burner so that we can be task oriented. So how do you feel as entrepreneurs we could bring those back to the forefront? Because do you think we'll be better entrepreneurs if we have those 3 things in place as pillars of our business?
And so you're talking about the pillars that I'm referring to, rich, fit, and happy, those 3 things? Yeah. So starting to say no to things that don't fit into those 3 categories, and just like focusing, some of the easiest things to do, or I shouldn't say the easiest, but just making, like simple tasks that you could do in the morning. This is what I have people do, is actually start to take some, like say 10, 15 minutes in the morning when it's quiet, no one's around, and write over and over the same thing. Okay, here's what I mean. Like I have in the beginning of a notebook, I'll have like my 5 major goals. and then I'll choose one of those from the 5 and write it over and over and write it as if it's already happened.
Okay.
And it calms the brain. And so again, there's that repetition that I'm referring to. So, let's say your goal is to hit a $20,000 a month, and all your clients are really easy. So write that out in a sentence. I'm making $20,000 a month in my business, and I love my clients. They're easy, easy clients. And start to write that. And what that will do is create a new neurotransmitter in your brain to literally attract and focus on those things. So you will automatically, when you focus your energy to that and seeing it on paper. So you also want to say it out loud. You're going to write it, you're going to say it out loud, and you're going to imagine it. Like if you're like me, where you need to set a timer and close your eyes and, to like force yourself to pay attention to that. I want you to like see it happening in your mind, like a movie. Your life will change if you are consistent with doing this. I promise you, your life will change and things will actually start to fall away that don't matter. So you don't actually have to do as much as you think to start getting these 3 pillars going.
Right.
Start your day off with what I just said and watch what happens. People will start coming into your life that you would have never dreamt would have happened. Opportunities will start coming. Things will fall away. Nuisances will fall away. The clients that you really couldn't stand, they just go away. It really will happen like that. It takes about 30 days to really start seeing it. Some people start seeing it that week.
Right. So you're talking about like a law of attraction kind of a thing. And
well, that's a word for it, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and the intentionality behind it. And I actually do something similar. I have a meditation that I do every single morning before I get out of bed. And it's the same thing. It's affirmations. It's, visualizing yourself in a successful state, imagining your day going exactly the way you want it to go. And it really does center you in the morning. I have found that it has made a tremendous difference in my life. Just in, if I get up and the alarm is going off and I'm rushing off, I've got to get out, got to get in the shower, got to go make coffee, and I'm rush, versus set my alarm 15 minutes earlier, listen to a meditation when I get up. And now my brain is centered on how successful the day is going to be and not how rushed my morning is.
Yes. And it relaxing. Like I just tell Alexa to put on some jazz music, and she'll probably do that when she heard me say. It's just like create and surround yourself with easy things to just add these things to your life so that they're just like easily part of your day. Like Alexa, record your affirmations. And then I don't know how you would put that into Alexa, but I'm sure there's a way.
Yeah.
It doesn't even take that much technical savvy. I'm not the most technically savvy. I think people think that I am because I run a business online, but I'm really not. I still don't know how to use my remote control half the time. But it just takes a few times, right, to figure it out. And you're like, you just add these little things into your life to make your life easier, and the flow starts to happen. But that whole repetition and that habit around that is the
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, having repetition is good, and also having routines. Like I do I work out in the morning before I get my day started as well, and I think that also has an impact on how my day goes.
It's I swear it's like 80% of your sanity, isn't it? Working out. It really is.
Yeah. I said it, and I do a class in the morning, and just because I'm big on accountability, and once I sign up for something, I'm doing it. So if I sign up for a class, then I know I'll be there. I know that my body and my mind are both they're in motion. I always say body in motion stays in motion, right? And so if I get my body and my mind moving in the morning, then my day is going to go a lot better.
Yeah. And that having that hit, meaning that really high heart rate, and then lowering it high and low. They say, that's again like an easy way to get it done in a short period of time. 15 minutes of that instead of an hour-long class sometimes is the answer.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the hit being just as, if not more powerful than a long body pump class, which by the way, I love body pump, but still.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. All right. So tell me, what obstacles do you think you've have been most prominent, and things that you've had to overcome in starting your own business and launching a book? Like, where do you feel like the obstacles that you overcame were the greatest?
Probably managing doing that, being a mom of three little ones. I think that was like all of it was kind of like an obstacle, but I will say this, I never missed anything that I wanted to miss. So it gave me that flexibility. Whereas when I was working for somebody else, I was always stressed out to get to the daycare, stressed out, like the after school program is what I meant, and picking them up, and so stressed out about it. Whereas when I was in my own business, I was never stressed out about it. And I always looked forward to picking them up from school. And it was like my favorite part of the day, and being able to drop them off without me being stressed out. So that was another thing that I never missed, and promoted or encouraged me to keep at being an entrepreneur until I hit my goals. But the obstacles being an entrepreneur was probably consistent income. That is a hard thing for people, and it is really scary. So like I said, if you can write down, I'm a successful entrepreneur, I'm making this much, and really focus, you'll be surprised at the many different opportunities to save 6 months of, and give yourself that little nest egg first, if you don't have 6 months.
Yeah, I love that. So, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
So I share this little story in my book that I lived in my car when I was 18. Wow. It was sadly a Datsun 210. They don't make them anymore. I don't know why. I don't think Datsuns are around, but they were really ugly little cars. And I think what I would say to her is, you're actually going to make it. And this is actually a blessing in disguise, because this right here is going to make you resilient as hell. That's what I would say to her.
Yeah, I know we all feel like when we're younger, something happens in our lives and we're like, how will we ever rebuild? How will we ever get to where we want it to go? Right. And so, we think everything is an ending, but really it's teaching us grit and tenacity and resiliency. And there's so many lessons in all those tough times we get through. I love that. All right. So living in your car as a teenager, do you think that helped you to become a better business owner? Because you had that lesson of like, I've already been here, right? And so like failing becomes less scary, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was the lowest point in my life. Sure. So there was only one other way, and that was up. So there's that. But I always had that experience to look back on and tell myself, hey, if I've been there, then I can do this. And that's nothing compared to this. And, or that this is nothing compared to that is what I meant to say. But I remember just certain things that I had to do. So I was forced to do. So sometimes when you're in a situation like that, like you'll think outside of the box. And so my Datsun was the box. And I remember thinking, okay, so the first thing, and by the way, I had friends, they were just off at college, and the couple of friends that I had in town, I literally was too embarrassed to tell them that it had come to that. And so that's one of the reasons why I was sleeping in my car. And I remember thinking, I've got to get myself out of this, and which meant at the time, I've got to get a higher paying job. And I remember seeing a sign in front of, it was like a Merle Norman store, and they were hiring a manager. And I don't know what in the hell possessed me to think that they would hire as a manager, but they did. And it was because I went to a friend's house, and it was not the age of the cell phone. So you had to knock on the door, and I'm just like, hey, I need to borrow that dress that I saw you wearing on such and such day. And I have this job interview. And she's like, sure. I worked the job interview and I didn't have a phone, remember?
Yeah.
So I actually used a payphone phone number and would hang out near this park bench. Sometimes I'd just, I just sit in my car waiting or reading my book, because I was actually going to school at the time. I was actually in college at the time, and I was failing miserably because I remember there was a philosophy class when I got the phone. I was reading philosophy thinking, this is interesting. Like, I think I might like philosophy. And I answered the phone and got the job.
Wow.
And yeah, and I took the job, but I took the job over the phone. I was like, yes. And but I still didn't know how I was going to get an apartment. But I remember thinking, and so my boyfriend, I did have a boyfriend, but he was off at college. And I remember calling him and telling him my situation and that's when I moved to Des Moines. So I never actually took the job at Merle Norman.
Oh.
But it was almost like me moving forward anyway, and me just taking charge was like a snowball effect. And I moved to Des Moines. He had graduated, moved with him to Des Moines, and that's where I lived the rest of, up until I moved here a year ago. That's where I lived. And Des Moines was very white collar. And I got my first job when I was 20 years old, actually, working at American Mutual Life. And I did the same thing. I was not qualified for that job. I'd have friends say, how did you get that job? It's like, I just walked in and asked for it.
Yeah.
So I looked the part with the dress, and yes, I could type, but I also asked for the job. I've told my daughters this several times. If you want something, ask for it.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
There are some instances where it's not appropriate to ask, but most will respect you for asking. 100%. I remember during this interview thinking, I need these. I just knew this particular insurance company gave great benefits. I loved the pay. I just, everything was perfect. And I remember just thinking, what have I got to lose?
Yeah.
And so at the end of it, I said, hey, I'm not sure if we're going to offer this job, but I'm telling you, I want this job. And then just it came all out of my mouth before I even knew what I was saying, and told him how great I was going to be at the job. And he offered it to me right then.
Wow.
So, yeah. And so I worked there for, I think it was 3 years. Yeah. I learned a lot about life insurance, and that I still use some of that knowledge today, because I would go over APSs, attending physician statements, and I would see life insurance policies that were denied. And, I talked to the doctors, and we'd give different codes for different. And what I learned about that is, don't tell doctors. I mean, doctors love to give all these different ailments that you have, right?
Right.
Well, they put those in your chart, and the insurance company uses that, and then they rate you, and then they charge you a lot for your life insurance.
Oh, no.
So it's not always good. Like, and most of the ailments aren't really ailments. They're just things we bring up. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, and I have a similar story. You figure it out. So when I had gotten out of college, ton of debt from college loans, and I moved to Georgia, very first place on my own out of college. And the job that I got, I just took the first job. They offered me a job. I said yes, right? And so it was selling telecommunications, and it was a sham company that is no longer around. They went bankrupt, no surprise. But they said, we're going to pay you $19,000 a year in salary, but you'll have this very generous commission package. And like in your bio that I read, they kept changing the rules for the commission. So we never made a dime of commission, because it was like, well, you have to get to this goal. And then they changed the goal, and then they'd say, well, you can't get commission until we actually install it. And then, but the installation date's 6 months away. And so it was they just kept changing the rules. And so I'm trying to live off of $19,000 a year. And I had a roommate that was just a toxic roommate, just partying all the time, strange people in the house. And I said, I'm going to go out and live by myself. So now I'm trying to live by myself at $19,000 a year. And it was just, I could only afford like ramen. Like that was it. peanut butter sandwiches and ramen, and that was kind of all I could afford. And so I needed to get creative, and so I was attending networking events, trying to meet people for this to sell to for the commissions I wasn't going to get. So I'm trying to meet people, and the networking events weren't very good, and so I thought, I'll just host my own networking events. But I started doing it, and what I realized is I could walk into a restaurant and ask a restaurant, hey, if I bring you 50, people for a networking event, will you give us free food? And so they would put food out, and then I could eat real food. And so they put food out, and I said, I'll bring them. It'll be a cash bar so that other people were buying drinks, so there could, and then I would charge people like $5 to come in, and it would be enough money where I could at least have a little bit of money for the week to live off of, and also have food.
Yeah.
So,
Mother is the need of invention, or is it need is the mother of invention?
yeah,
Need is
yeah,
the mother of invention. It's so true. It forces you to start thinking your way out of it.
you do. And those rough times, and those times that you felt like, how can I ever get out of this? They build you up, and they build character and resiliency, and they build, grit and all those things that, then you
And
turn that into fuel.
in hindsight, you say to yourself, I would have never thought of that if I hadn't been in that position.
Correct.
And then when you realize you got away with it, sometimes it feels like, wow, I got away with that.
Right.
Or just like asking for a job that I didn't think I was qualified for, and I did great. Like, I would have never thought to ask that. But there's something that I feel like that I want anyone that's listening to this to walk away from, and you've got to start thinking, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
And ask yourself, like, why aren't you asking for what you want? Why aren't you expecting what you want? Because it's all right there. Everything we want is right there. It's just a matter of time before you get it, and it's a matter of time before you realize you deserve it. That's really what it amounts to.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I asked you, like, did living in your car make you less fearful? And that's what it made me, like being in that moment where I'm like having to be creative about how to put food on the table, how to make a few extra bucks. It made me less fearful of going out and starting something new, because hey, you know what? I know what it's like to barely be able to afford food. So I think I can handle it. So you start believing in yourself and your ability to get through tough times. Yeah. So
I know that is one of the most resilient people, and her story is mind blowing. She actually grew up in Okinawa, and she was taken for a short time when she was 6 and chained. This is a crazy story. And chained to a pole, held for kind of like ransom, I guess. And she was chained next to a dog. Wow. And at 6 years old, she watched this dog be abused. And she ended up getting out of that situation. Her dad found her. My point in telling you this story is that there is, like, she has some of it she's blocked out, she says. But I mean, think about how lucky we are here.
Yeah.
And most of us will never see a situation like that.
Right.
And what she witnessed, and the fear that had to have been in her, as all of it, I feel like that has made her who she is today. Mm-hmm. I do. And so I know that was probably a really sad story that I just told. She's alive today to tell the story, though.
Yeah.
It's just that, man, there are some really sad situations, and we